ground shake.
Cat. Hello there, this is Digital Design's M5, a big monoblock. And this video is about setting your gains, subsonics and LPF and explaining how to make your first settings here on a brand new amplifier you have just bought. Now, I get these questions a lot, so I will be explaining here how do you set, for example, subsonic, which is from 10 Hz to 50 Hz, how do you set this to 20 Hz or 30 Hz, and LPF and gains. Now, usually this amplifier has these RCA inputs here. This has input here, left and right. Left is usually white and red is usually right. So it does not matter if you have a monoblock, digital monoblock. It does not matter in which way, in which order you put these in. Only thing that you need to have, the amplifier must be off and the CD player must be off, so the ground foil on your head unit does not burn. So if you take your, let's say, if amplifier and head unit is on and you take your RCA out and put the center pin in here in grounding, you ground the sound from the head unit and it may damage the head unit. So everything needs to be off. You can use a one input only in some of amplifiers, but this needs to have both of them. You can use a Y connection if you have one RCA coming out from your head unit, like most of head units have. You can use a Y splitter to put it in here in both ways. And some of amplifiers, like sound digital amplifiers, has only one input and the other one is output. It is misleading that you have red and white RCAs on sound digital amplifiers. Also, I think Taramps use it, and these new Brazilian amplifiers like Ground Zero and Def Bonze use the Brazilian board, and it has a one input and one output. Now this amplifier had this kind of button here, which is not located, which is not on the sound digital amplifiers. You can actually with this set a master amplifier to use other amplifiers as a slave, and you just put here which way you are connected, strap or link mode. I have more explanation about this in this M5 amplifier in my other video, link in description. So back to basics. You have a red here and white here in sound digital amplifier. If you put your RCA, both RCAs in here, the grounding will be connected together inside the amplifier, but also the center pin will be connected together. So that way, when you are playing music, the center pin will short out from the head unit and it might damage the head unit. The amplifier should be okay, but the head unit may blow. The head unit, usually I use Alpine head units because it has very good protection of this kind of misplacing or short-circuiting. So if you are using a head unit and you put them both here, the signal output may be damaged, so that you need to get a new head unit. Keep that in mind and read the manual. Now this also, when you first buy your first brand new amplifier, usually the gains and subsonics and all of these are in zero position, downwards here or all the way up. Now if you just go here and raise your gain, like so, into half position, sorry about this, it goes blurry, but I'm trying to fix it all the time, and you play the music. Now with these settings, everything is in low. You actually get from 10 Hz up to 20 Hz. So this amplifier now will only play from 10 Hz to 20 Hz. That is 10 Hz range. Now, if the subsonic, which is also named as high pass filter, means that these settings will allow this amplifier to put out music from this Hertz to upwards. So this is now at 10 Hz, so this will subsonic with these settings will only output music from 10 Hz up. If it is in max position, if I turn it here like so, it will only output from 50 Hz to upwards. Now if you have a 50 Hz here and a 20 Hz here, it will cut out completely the whole output of the amplifier, which may cause damage to the amplifier or the speaker you are using. Now if you want to set your, let's say subsonic is low, because we want to usually play low, very low music, so let's put it all the way out. Actually, Hertz amplifiers has subsonic off button, which is quite nice. Now you have here LPF from 20 Hz to 200 Hz, and you want to set it in around 60 to 70 Hz. How do you do it? Now, if this position here is 20 Hz, and if we turn it all around, we can see that it does not go all the way through. It goes from here to here. So from here to here is from 20 to 200 Hz. So that means that these settings here changes the value 200 minus 20 Hz, which is 180 Hz. From here it will raise 180 Hz to be here. Now if we set this LPF, come on, focus. If we set this LPF in the middle position, upwards here, it will be around 200 Hz minus 20 Hz, which is 180 Hz, divided by 2, which is 90 Hz, plus the base value of 20 Hz. So this upward position here is 20 plus 90 is 110 Hz in here. And if you want to lower this, let's say we want that 60 to 70 Hz LPF. Now if we put this between the 110 Hz and 20 Hz, it will go from 20 to 110, which is 90 Hz from here to here. And 90 Hz divided by 2 is 45 Hz plus the base value of 20 Hz, which is 20 plus 45, which is 65 Hz. So this setting here is 65 Hz. If we want to put it 60 Hz, we lower it just a little bit. Or if you want to put it in 70 Hz, we'll raise it just a little bit. With this kind of small calculations, it is easy to set your LPF or your crossovers correctly. Now same goes into subsonic or HPF, high pass filter. This is 10 Hz here and 50 Hz here, and we want to set this around 30 Hz, because if you have a normal ported enclosure tuned like at 30 Hz, let's say it's 30 Hz, you should not play songs under 20 Hz, because when you go lower than your port tuning, the port will not work correctly, and it will mostly take a lot of juice from your amplifier, and actually the impedance, which is the real load that the amplifier sees, the impedance box rise will go under 0. So if you have 2 ohm, let's say if you have 1 ohm nominal lead, nominal resistance, which you are setting, let's say one subwoofer with dual voice coil of 2 ohms, and you set it to 1 ohm. And if you are using a 30 Hz enclosure, and then you play songs under 30 Hz, let's say 10 to 15 Hz, the actual impedance on the amplifier might go under the 1 ohm load. Sometimes, not always. Usually using ported enclosures, it will stay at least twice of the resistance of the subwoofer. So when you have a 30 Hz enclosure, ported or 4th order bandpass, in 6th order bandpass it will fluctuate a bit more, but on ported and 4th order bandpass you are usually safe. Now let's say we have 30 Hz of port tuning on our enclosure, and we want this subsonic to be around 30 Hz or a little bit less, let's say 20 Hz. Now this has 10 Hz here and 50 Hz here. We do the same calculations like the LPF. We put this on the middle here, upward position, and then we calculate that the 50 Hertz minus 10 Hertz is 40 Hertz. So here to here is 40 Hertz rise. Now 40 Hertz divided by 2, because this is on center, will be 40 divided by 2 is 20 Hertz. So 20 Hertz plus the base value 10 Hertz equals 30 Hertz. So this in upward position is at 30 Hertz. Now if we want to set it on 20 Hertz, let's say, so we know this is 30 Hertz now. So from here 0 to 10 Hertz to here is 30 Hertz, and then we divided it by we minus the 10 Hertz from the 30 Hertz maximum, we have 20 Hertz. So from here it will rise 20 Hertz to here, and then we divided it by 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10 Hertz. So if we put this between this position and this position, it's around here maybe, it will be 10 Hertz plus the base value of 10 Hertz, which equals 20 Hertz. Now the amplifier will play from 20 Hertz up to 65 Hertz. If I remember correctly, we set this at 65 Hertz or 60 Hertz, around there. So from 20 to 60 Hertz, this amplifier will output its power. That's a good thing. These have a different kind of crossovers. These are usually 24 decibels per octave, which means that when you go from 20 Hertz to 10 Hertz, it will lower the output at 24 decibels from 20 to 10 Hertz. 24 decibels is a lot. So you should be safe around here with a 30 Hertz of enclosure. Now how about gain? Gain is not a volume knob. It is meant to tell the amplifier what kind of input signal you have in your amplifier. So your output of your head unit usually goes around 2 or 4 volts. Now this has gain settings from 5 to 0.15 volts. If you have output of your head unit around 5 volts, you put this on the 5 volt mark. Easy, simple. If you have output of your head unit a 0.15 volts, you set the gains all the way up to 0.15 volts. Now if you have a 4 volt output, like in normal Alpine head units have, 4 or 2 volts, also in many other brands, you do the same calculation as here, but you do it on reverse. So from here all the way here is a lowering of 4.85 volts. So if we set gain to half, it will be 4.85 divided by 2, which is around 2.4. So from this to here is 5 minus 2.4, which is around 2.6 volts. So these gain settings here should be now around 2.5 volts. Actually, we did it on reverse. So on the half settings, from here to here, it's 2.4 volts plus the base value of 0.15, which means that this gain setting here is 2.65 volts or 55 volts. It's around there, 2.5 volts, let's say that. So now this amplifier, we told this amplifier that the RCA signal, which is actually coming inside from here, will be 2.5 volts, around 2.5 volts at maximum settings. When you are setting your gain, you should always check the output of your head unit and not play distorted songs here. You can actually measure your set your gains with just voltage meter, but I will be explaining this because this is the right way to set your gains. Now if you have 4 volts, this is here 2.5 around, and here is 5 volts. From here to here it will go 2.5 volts up. Now 2.5 volts divided by 2 is 1.25 volts. So from here to around half. So here is maximum, minimum, about there. It is 2.5 volts plus 1.25 volts, which is around 3.75 volts. So it's a little bit less than 4 volts. Now if your gain settings here, you can actually a little bit lower it here, so it will be around 4 volts. Now the amplifier wants to have 4 volts to output its maximum power out when the head unit is at loudest. People usually use this as a volume knob or gain knob, set power out from the amplifier. They are setting it way high and feeding it a lot of more voltage than the amplifier wants to have, which distorts the output signal and usually destroys the amplifier, power side or output side or the speaker. So do not set this at maximum. One thing also, if you have a system that can handle all the distortion and everything like that, you can set up your gains by using just a voltage meter. Now if you set voltage meter down there at the amplifier input side, you see the amplifier input voltage. And then you put your head unit to maximum undistorted, so that's around 3/4 of, 3/4, so it's around 75% of the output of the head unit. And you play a low bass music from there, which is inside your output here and inside around a bit higher than your tuning of your enclosure. That is the best place to use it. And then you set up your gain. You raise your gain until you see that the amplifier goes under 12 volts. Now here in Finland we don't have very much alternator power, so setting up gains here in USA, if you have very good electricity system, this is the wrong way to use it. You need to use a oscilloscope or check your gain here up to 2 to 4 volts. If you had a bad electrical system, you can set up your gain low and raise it all the way when the input of the amplifier voltage goes under 12 volts, and you set it there. So that means when you are playing maximum of your head unit, the amplifier will never get under 12 volts input voltage. That way you save your amplifier from destruction and your speakers from destruction. Also we can see remote here, which is very commonly used in many amplifiers. A remote control usually only changes the gain settings from minimum to the setting you have here. So with remote controller you cannot boost it. You only can use it from here to here. If you set your gains like half or 3.5 or 75%, the remote controller will control from its 0 position, it is here, and its maximum position is 75%. With this you can set your gains from the bass knob, but I usually don't use remote controller and want to use only gain knob to set my gains right, so it is on 2 or 4 volts. Actually, I would like to see amplifier which has a slide button like this, which has 2 volts, 4 volts, and maybe 8 volts or something like that, to set up your gains easily with just a button here. Last but not least, really quick here, bass boost, do not use it. It only raises the output at the frequency it is set on. It is usually around 40 to 50 hertz, and it will boost it with the Q value of something. The Q value means that if it's a really low Q value, it is very high peak, and really high Q value, it is very wide peak. So with this you usually distort your output and destroy your amplifier or your subwoofer. So let's keep the bass boost on 0. That's about it. I need to quit now. Hope you learned something, and remember, on the Sound Digital amplifiers there's only one input. Do not put both. The other one is for linking other amplifiers in series mode. Hope you learned something. Leave me a comment if you learned something, and leave me a message if I made a mistake on somewhere here. Let's correct them all out, because if your amplifier is happy, you are happy, and if your amplifier does not blow, you are very happy. See you on the next video. Bye bye.